Hello, everybody, and greetings from No Labels, No Walls. My name is Markus Vähälä, and I am in Vantaa, Finland, and it's extremely nice to be here today together with Angela Fell and Hannah Gray from England and Scotland, and together with Michael Beeman from the Strindberg Laboratory in Los Angeles. Welcome to the Action Monday, Michael. How are things in Los Angeles?
Everything's good. Really excited to be here. Can't wait to hear the discussion today.
And welcome everybody. If you're not yet subscribing our channel, Citizen Network TV, do it now and check out our website, citizennetwork.org, for more information and action. No Labels, No Walls is concentrating this year in spaces. So we've traveled around the world finding spaces for art, culture, and citizenship action. No Labels, No Walls can reach over 1,000 activists around the world, and we do yearly festivals and events locally and online. And today we are traveling to Wigan to meet Angela Fell. Hi, Angela, how are you doing?
Hi, Marcus. I'm really good, actually. It's a bank holiday in England today, so there's a lot of people resting, and we're certainly resting because we've been a bit exhausted from doing lots and lots of community stuff all summer. We're ready for a bit of a sleep here.
So it's good to relax. It's good to relax together. It's good to relax alone. We need each other. There needs to be compassion and solidarity between people from place to place. And one of my favorite places on earth is Scotland, where Hannah is now. Where are you, Hannah, in Scotland?
I'm in Stirling in central Scotland, so not too far away from Edinburgh and Glasgow, right in the middle.
How's the weather now in Scotland? Is it good?
It's a bit dull, not great, no.
So Hannah, what are you doing in Scotland? Can you tell a little bit about the spaces and places where you are doing your actions?
So I guess there's two things. I live in a place called Bannockburn, so I'm a citizen here in my own right. And in my day job, I work for Strathcarron Hospice, so I'm part of the Compassionate Communities team there. So what we do is we look to work in an asset-based way to ask people what they care about, what they love, in order to sort of connect like-minded people. And the idea is to work across the whole community in a way that eventually will strengthen the community, so that if someone were to become unwell or someone was to die or become bereaved, that the community naturally and authentically gathers together around those people, basically in a way that no service ever could.
In No Labels, No Walls movement, there are a lot of people doing art and culture. Are you connected with this kind of communities or groups, or are you yourself somehow active in art and culture?
Yes, art and culture is so wide, isn't it? I've done work in Stirling with an amazing local organisation called Create. So we worked together to do a bit of participatory art stuff to get people thinking really about what makes them them. The question was, what makes you you? And basically, what do you love? What gives you your spark? And we used arts to kind of encourage people to draw or write or just get them thinking. Just in the end, it was about about that process, and the hope that we would plant those seeds so that then they would leave with those questions in their minds. And I think art can really do that in a way that a survey couldn't ever.
Sounds very nice, and we all know that, for example, music brings people together all over the world, and in Citizen Network Movement we have created a Music Beyond All Borders network, and we have partners in Scotland, by the way. So these networks are aligned, and people come together into the agora, like we said, into the space, shared space where people can meet and create action together. They can communicate, cooperate together from different kind of doors, and then they meet and they start collaborating. So Hannah, how did you meet Angela, and how did your collaboration start?
I think my first initial kind of crossing of paths with Angela was through Cormac Russell. We, as a hospice, were a learning site for nurture development, and so at one point going to be our mentor. And then COVID happened and lots of things changed, and we stumbled upon each other again at a Together Apart meeting that was hosted by Peter Pula. They're now called Cultivating Communities. And then again through camarados, and Angela couldn't get rid of me. Twitter was another another thing that brought us together. Until eventually Angela said, "Here, I'm going to this meeting, pretty much like today actually. Do you want to come along?" I thought, well, if Angela thinks it's a good idea, then it must be. So that's how we became, I guess, partners in crime again at the Neighbourhood Democracy Movement.
Very good, Hannah. And Neighbourhood Democracy Movement is one of my favorite movements, and I tell when I travel around or I meet people online that there's a new kind of movement emerging, and you two are both my heroes in Neighbourhood Democracy Movement, because I strongly believe the way you are doing things and in the spirit and the values you are doing things is the right way to go. And if you want to learn more and join Neighbourhood Democracy Movement, how can it be done? How can people join, Hannah?
The website is your best port of call. I should know it off the top of my head, and I do not. It is, I'm sure it's something very, very simple, but I should definitely know. neighborhooddemocracy.org is the website. And we will put it down there. So if you're watching this later, you can check out Neighbourhood Democracy Movement and join. And it's excellent that we can meet you, Hannah, and also travel to Wigan to meet Angela. Welcome, Angela, to No Labels Action Monday. I'm so glad to have you with us today.
Oh, thank you, and thanks for inviting me. And I really feel like I need to apologise to Anna, because I said, no, I don't think you'll need to speak. And we met for the first time, didn't we, in real life, in person, in April earlier on in this year. So I'm dead happy to be invited to come to No Labels, No Walls, and particularly to think about spaces and creativity and how those are used in the community. And I'm a community builder in Wigan, and so the opportunity of the nasty pandemic to be able to become more rooted where I live, and to kind of come home, really, to take my experience of community development in other people's communities into the place that I live and breathe and know, and rather than go out to work, go home to work. And I've been enabled to do that for the last few years, which I think brings something to the work that I think Hannah touched on, around kind of, providing something that a service can't, a community coming together creates something that can't be given or done to them, and enables the people who live there to become the creative producers and creators of community life and community space, rather than the participants in something, or kind of the attending a project. It's a completely different way of being, I feel, that I feel very privileged to be part of, and not everyone is as lucky. And I think if I go back to like the pandemic and the end of the pandemic here in Wigan, which is a town that's part of Greater Manchester, but my dad will never say it's in Greater Manchester. He will always say it's in Lancashire, because the boundaries were politically changed. But now we're apparently Greater Manchester, but I do live on the Lancashire, Cottony end of the area. And as we were coming out of the pandemic and we were starting to treasure map and asset map, we began to notice that all these spaces or assets that we might draw on a map were actually inaccessible by the community or to the community. And that the only place really that people could freely associate, and you need to be able to freely associate in order to create, without having to pay something, was a park bench. And people felt that the parks weren't safe. They felt that the parks, through underuse, had been taken over by people who were soothing their own trauma and their own grief in there, and they didn't feel like they were safe and accessible to go in. So part of our work has been about how do we kind of, reclaim and rekindle our community spaces through using them, and through using them in lots of different ways, by really tuning in and listening to people and talking with them about what matters to them, what's important to them, what they'd love to do if they could find other people who shared the same passion or talents of themselves, and then beginning to connect people. And luckily we had a little bit of a budget so that we could open up spaces if there were buildings that needed to be open to enable people to get together. So like Make It Mine, which is a women's space for upcycling furniture and creating and selling, runs from one of the community centres. We have a women's food share that meets monthly for people who love to create through the meals and the food that they produce and share. We have a kind of bike recycling programme for people who like to fix and tinker as they are doing. And we've slowly started, like one of the things that people, women particularly, felt that really mattered to them was about reclaiming play and civic space in the community. So over the last 2 years, we've been hosting days, or as we've just done this summer, fortnights in local parks as play rangers with a light guiding to really create an atmosphere and an environment in which creativity can grow, and offer a different kind of invitation to people who might not like to walk through a door, like to create a really, really inviting space. And that's been such a delight to be part of this year. And we're just about, in fact, tomorrow, we're about to embark on working. One of the things that really matters to local people is the number of people that we've lost to suicide or early death over the last 1 or 2 years. And tomorrow we're starting to think about how we create a piece of art that will go on one of the bridges where a lot of people choose to end their lives, and then how we think about creatively about what we can do, to make people feel that we really want them to stay around in the community. So you kind of creativity and art and music. Some of the men organised a music festival last Saturday to begin thinking about mental health and well-being. So I think creativity and art is the way into communities. It's the way that communities express themselves, and it's the way that as well as being kind of joyful spaces, it provides opportunities for communities to collectively heal and to let go of some of the pain and the trauma that has been, especially if you're working in working class communities that have lost jobs and lost people over years. It enables them to grieve in a way that suits the way that people want to grieve. So it's so much part of everything that we do here in the neighbourhood. And of late, we've started to involve children in the design of that too, working with schools. So we heard that parents didn't want to let their children play out, and we heard that kids too felt like that was being a bit unfair and a bit overprotective. So we've kind of started this process, which might take us 12 months to get to the place that we're getting to, whereby we're working with children in schools and training them as mini reporters to begin to think about what community means to them, and to begin to start exploring how their play experiences are different to adults' play experiences, with a view to coming together next spring, summertime, and sharing that, and then thinking about, well, now that we've all heard what we've heard, what do we think we might want to do next? So I think we've got some film, haven't we, Marcus, around that features some of the work that we've just started, really, just this year, around training young people as mini reporters.
We interrupt this broadcast with an important news announcement. The kids are making the rules in their community. Here's what young people at Beach Hill Community Primary School love about their area and what they want to see in the future. Hi, welcome to Beach Hill Primary School. Let's show you around. This is the swim trail. This is the stage. This is the gym.
This is our gazebo where we all hang out in the nature.
This is Beach Hill and everyone is welcome.
Teamwork helps to achieve.
Friendships motivate to never give up.
Sportsmanship helps friendship. Exercise helps with health.
Commitment.
Opportunity.
Memories.
Making friends.
Understanding.
Neighbourhood.
Interesting.
Teamwork.
Youth.
We don't want glitter. We don't want bullies. We don't want homophobes. We don't want racism. We don't want anything wrong in our community. Remember to be kind and just be loving. In our community, we accept everyone for what they love, like drawing, dancing,
Writing.
and talking.
Stop bullying.
Bullying is not okay in our community.
No smoking, no racism, no bullying, no littering.
At the Beach Hill School, we are so cool.
And we rule. We are the Beach Hill crew and we love our community too.
Spread the joy and spread the love. Spread the kindness to the stars above. In our community, we all take a part. If we all came together, no matter who we are, we can help solve these problems which might seem hard.
This is the best community ever.
We are all unique.
What do you think of the community and why? Quite good because there's loads of sports in the world and there's places where we all can go like youth zone, there's rock climbing, playing football, basketball, skateboard, park and loads of pitches, everything what we can play on.
I like that everyone is kind and the opportunities you get. For example, after school clubs and town sports.
Oh, everyone's kind.
What would you change about your community and why?
More equipment and parks because I want something fun every place I go.
What would you like to see in the future and why?
I'd like to see the gas prices going down and the cars because the cars are not helping the environment and the prices are making people ill and everything, like they can't get houses and all that, and I like to see people gardening so the bees can stay up.
If your community was a person, what would you say to them?
I would tell them thank you for everything you do for our environment and that lots of people care.
What do you think about the community and why?
I think at Beach Hill we look after everyone and the children are really good children who do the best for tomorrow, and we have a club where it looks after the community of Beach Hill.
What do you do for the community?
I try to help people and make their lives better. For any questions I get asked, any help I can give, I do my best to do it.
What is your favourite thing about the community and why?
My favourite thing is meeting so many lovely people, and with this role I've got to make the area and the people's lives better than they were previously.
What is your least favourite thing about community and how would you like to change it?
Well, the least favourite thing of mine is the dog fouling and the litter. And I have been out doing litter picks myself, but I wish we could change people's attitudes of throwing litter about and allowing the dogs to foul on the pavements.
If you had one wish for the community, what would it be and why?
I think one wish is a bit stingy, really. Because there's so many things you'd like. Well, I would, if I had a magic wand and I could do that, that I would improve in the community. But as it is now, I'm encouraged, is a better word, to see young people like you, to see you asking questions like that. It's up to you, that's what I would like to see. A thriving community, all the amenities, lots of money to spend. You've all got different needs, you've all got different wants, you've all got different pictures of how you'd like to see your community. So it's not just one thing, it's a lot of things across the board.
These are the words to describe our community.
Friendship.
Sportsmanship.
Fantastic.
Phenomenal!
Kindness.
Crazy.
Happy!
Friendship.
Perfecto. Happiness.
Exercise.
Pride.
Friendly.
Group.
Fun.
Teamwork.
Confidence.
Amazing.
Respect.
Unique.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Love. Amazing.
Fun.
Peace. Courage. Friendship. Happy. Love.
Play. Enjoyable.
Joy.
Amazing.
Diverse.
Perfecto.
Love. Friendly.
Family. Happy.
Friendship.
Teamwork. Togetherness.
Thank you for watching, and remember, together we are doing our best today for a brighter tomorrow.
We're Ethan and Olivia for Beach Hill News, signing off.
That was wonderful. Wonderful to see the spaces and people around you. Is this kind of common in your area? How did you create this video, and what's the story behind it?
it's not really common. I was going to say sometimes Media Cubs are an organisation that was set up by two women who have another community interest company called Yellow Jigsaw. And Media Cubs really was about the underrepresentation of children from working class communities in media roles. And so they wanted to set up something that would bring that to life. And they've been used quite a bit, but they're mainly used for kids develop a lot of skills using it, but people like it because it looks nice, as opposed to being part of a strategy to do something different. And I think, so whilst it's about a lot, I think the way that we're using it is a little bit different, because those children who participated in that are in year 6 at the primary school. And in England, that means they're about to transition to secondary school. They're about to finish. But across the road from their school is where we sited the playbox over the summer holidays. So we also then spent a good bit of the summer holidays with some of those children and with other children from the other primary schools and their families. So we got to kind of deepen some of those opportunities. And the playbox is a shipping container that we hired from a brilliant organisation called Playful Anywhere that are based in Leeds in Yorkshire, who are all about bringing joy to community space and creativity and opening that up as a community building tool. So it came on a trailer and landed in the park for 2 weeks. And whilst it's called a playbox, like the opportunities for them are really open and endless. You know, like Vera, who lives next door to the park, who was on that film, one of the women that their children interviewed, you know, she would like to run a storytelling group from there about local history. In some areas, they are used for like specifically for older people to like play bowls, or you know, or as repair cafes, or as lending places. So that you don't have to like kind of stick to one theme for that. But just in 2 weeks, that being in the park, and then Media Cubs came again, and the children contributed to making a film in the park too that talked about, and I think we have got that's about 2 minutes long, which talks about how the playbox opened that community space. Because of that, we've now got a group of parents and children who are interested in coming together to hatch plans, to raise the cash, to buy a playbox, and for it to become a permanent feature in that park, because it did everything really that we'd hoped for it to do in terms of turning that space into something that was really open, accessible and fun and enjoyable for the community.
Well, the playbox grew out of women in the area being passionate about there being spaces for children to play, and recognising that in some ways, like kind of adults were no longer in the streets.
I feel like it's really brought life to the park, and people don't usually use the park, and I feel like it's really made the park more busy, and it's given it a really happy atmosphere.
We've lived around in Beach Hill for about 3 years now, and this has been our main park ever since. And the new playbox is like, has it making us more like active and social.
Having obviously the playbox, it is going to be beneficial for people who can't afford things, or if they don't have a lot of income, then this is ideal for them.
So we generally like just taking sibling time together at the park every day, and like all these activities, my brother's never been so happy to come to the park. He normally likes staying at home. Honestly, the play box has brought joy to all my siblings, and I wish that we could get our own, and all the adults have been talking about it.
What we've noticed is that it's brought in a whole range of different people that don't come to some of the associational spaces that we have, so it's a real community connector and friendship maker, and people say that once they've met somebody new in the park, then when they see them in the street they feel that they've got permission to say hello and have a natter.
I wish the play box was always in here. I liked the staff, they're really nice here, like really nice.
That was wonderful, and a good example how you can create space of fun and enjoyment and colors and people meeting together with this kind of inventions. So just on Saturday I visited a community party here in Vantaa, where I live, and it's an experiment of ecosystem building around an area where health differences between people are the largest in Finland, and it forced 10 organizations to work together to create this party together with the people from this area in my city. But on the other hand, the communities that funded this action, it's a like a 2-year project and experiment. They are also learning how to fund this kind of community movements. So everybody's learning new ways and trying to build sustainability so that people can continue to do similar kind of actions, like a regular culture club now happening once a month, on top of all sorts of other things happening there. But the clue is that through this party, the community gets to know each other better. So the other things that can support families, for example, or the community with different kind of challenges can now be done much more easier than we used to. In Finland, people are not on the streets because of the weather. There are less and less free spaces, non-commercial spaces where people can meet. People are moving to the capital region from other parts of Finland, so they don't have any relatives. Perhaps they don't have friends. Loneliness is a big problem here in Finland. So having this kind of attitude that we can celebrate life and create parties or events like this playbox, for example, it's very exciting. I have to show everybody how you're doing it. How do you experience it? Is this common to have a playbox in every street, in every city or town?
Do you think we should have a strategy to just have more parties and
Yes.
just watch?
Changing the world can be fun. I'm a strong believer.
One party at a time.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Because there was a saying, like, we noticed over the summer, like when we asked people, like, what surprised you about what happened when the playbox came? Like, it's amazing how it brought out people who were really, really struggling with lots of difficulties and problems, who suddenly became contributors rather than, kind of recipients of a service. They were suddenly like showing us how to make slime, or showing us how to make clay, and that was really important. And it's not well, established or developed, this playbox in every park, although I have started writing a strategy, like we want to here. And Emma, who founded this in Leeds, actually she's just about to, and we'll probably link it in some way to the neighbourhood democracy movement, but she's about to start convening something and bringing people together who are interested in play containers or containers, play boxes or shipping containers as a way of opening up community space. So I think there are 3 currently permanent ones in England, and the idea is that we could possibly begin to create a network to grow that. That would be great, you know. And having lots of different spaces, because like when we talked to people about what mattered, we had some women who were very interested in older people and very interested in providing opportunities for them to connect, because a lot of older people now don't have the reason to go to the post office because everything's paid in the bank. You know, one of the older women around us told me a story of how, because she couldn't walk now to the local shop because there were no benches to stop on, it was quicker for her to get and easier for her to get the bus into town, go to the shop right outside the bus station, and then come home on the bus. So it was to be somebody active in her local community. And one of the women who was dead keen on making something happen said like, older people are so wise, and we're losing all that wisdom, you know, like that you get when you've got older people around you. And so we supported her and a group of other women to set up afternoon teas, but afternoon teas with music and dance and fun. And they run those now once a quarter, and they're such a fun space to be in, you know, to see people up and dancing to songs that you know that they really love to have a good time to. So I suppose it's about opening up space for all different people, isn't it? Some spaces where people are together, some spaces that are for young people, some spaces that are for older people, and just really beginning to grow things based on what you hear and what you see and what you notice in the community.
How many people are in your community?
We're working on like a ward basis here, which makes sense, like that, the way that the government organises it, but it's actually a ward that makes sense to the people around here. So we call our community Springfield, Beach Hill and Gidlow, because if you ask anybody around here where they live, they will say one of those 3 places. So there are 3 communities within the community, and we've got approximately 9,500 voters and about 14,000 residents in total. That's the kind of size that we're looking at. And then we have networks across the borough, because in order to make some of the shifts to communities becoming greater producers, we need to have allies who are interested in working in solidarity and liberation rather than traditional charitable models. So
Right.
We've got a network that we've grown, which is called GROW, Grassroots of Wigan, which is bringing together people who are interested in shifting power, resource and authority to communities. And then we've got a women's network, which is predominantly consists of women-led socially trading organisations that never get a bite of commissioning pies or the bigger check, the bigger cash, because the larger voluntary sector organisations tend to eat up all the money that comes through. So that is kind of a network that is forming. And then we've got regional, because we're invested in by Lankelly Chase Foundation. We've got a network that kind of brings us together across Greater Manchester, the region of 10 local authorities. We're the second biggest local authority with about 330,000 across the whole of the borough. And then we've got the Neighbourhood for Democracy movement, which is like the next layer from that, really. So that's what we're trying to grow, is all these circular networks that.
And you mentioned in the video about the people maybe not going to associations, other things like that. have you noticed a drop in communal, like for instance, clubs, people attending clubs, people being a part of associations in your local community? Like obviously, like older generations, obviously, you know, when they retire, especially, they join clubs, associations, but yet the young people or younger people don't really partake in that civic engagement. Have you noticed a decline? Is that one of the reasons you're going into these public spaces?
I think some things have declined and some things have grown. And I think like we do have quite a lot of younger people who come along to our spaces and do want to connect with each other. But I think provided, like we have online communities and then we have on land communities, and like I think we might be bucking the trend in this neighbourhood in comparison to some other local neighbourhoods, because people couldn't believe over the summer like how many people have turned out from all across the age groups to join in and take part in community stuff. So we invited some people from health actually to join us on some of the days, and they were offering blood pressure tests to anybody who wanted to take one up, and they couldn't believe the numbers that we were getting in the community. And so I'm interested in exploring that, whether that's about the invitation and whether, you know, and that's something that Anna and I both work on in terms of asset-based community development, is that you're always looking for contribution and you're always trying to make sure that you look a bit rubbish so that somebody thinks they've got something to offer to what you're doing. And I don't know, that would be like interesting to explore in more, in, you know, and we probably will explore that as part of our evaluation, but we seem to be getting really, really good numbers for everything that we, men's work is lower, you know, bringing men together, but we've got a group of men who are kind of exploring that at the minute, and some of the work around the music and mental health have been inviting more men, 20s, aged 20 to 30s, into that space of like wanting to act. I don't know what you think, Hannah. Is it something about the invitation?
I think so, yeah. I think people my age are hard to I think they're hard to find. Do you know, for me, I am often hiding behind my children, taking my kids to things, and that was something that really struck me, Angela, about the play box. I think in maybe one of your tweets you put out recently, you were talking about how people were being seen more with their children who maybe weren't with their children before, and then people were having those conversations. It's something I ponder a lot, and I think the invitation has to be right. And yeah, it's tricky. I think of, like, for example, my husband hasn't been involved in community life at all, and it's been when something's really, really talked to him that finally he's got out into community, and he's become involved with coaching for football. And I think it is just all those different ways of inviting people in and searching for those contributions rather than a meeting. And like you say, a part is always a good excuse to get together, but even that doesn't always talk to people. I think up here we're very much like, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Oh, what is it that you're really after? And even the term contribution sometimes can feel like, oh, right, so you really do want something from me, and this is going to be a lot for me to take on. But when we start with talking about, well, what is it that you love, then you're onto a winner. Because if it talks somebody makes their heart sing, then that's the art of invitation, isn't it?
So Angela and also Hannah, talking about contribution, because obviously if you're working under such an umbrella, Angela, like you kind of were laying out of these I guess multiple layers of your organization, the thing that one of the things, obviously having a good time and all those great things, that you are first getting them to show up, like you keep mentioning. But the question is what is the overall goal? Like what are you, bringing communities together, but asking them, like you're saying, to be, to create that community that they want to see. What is your plans, I guess, moving forward to enact that? Yeah.
Well, we've got a dream of becoming a self-organising and self-renovated neighbourhood that keeps hold of its people and keeps hold of its land and property, and then kind of develops circular economy so that wealth comes back with us. That's backed up by good public services. And following the asset-based community development kind of touchstones in the way of working is that, like, there's no point going into communities that have been stigmatised and labelled and internalise those labels and start talking about what's wrong. But to cultivate the soil, the way to do that is to focus on what's strong and what people have already got and what brings them joy and what they might want to connect on. So we're still very much like building the foundations here, and we've been at it 3 years. We're thinking this is like a generational plan that we're working towards. It's not something, and that's been part of my dream, really, is because I've always worked for funding programs or short-term things that have even been 5 years or so, and then things just never really change. And so this would be my one last attempt before I truly retire, about seeing if it's possible to do something different. And we're just starting to say, so I've got a real passion around the child protection system and the care system. So one of my interests in developing this play stuff is around what we're beginning to identify and bring to make more visible is the natural network of care that already exists in this community, that offers social work in non-traditional ways all over the place. And what might happen if we begin to connect that and resource it? What might we be able to create in this community as an alternative to the systems that are about to collapse, where we now see adoption as like the way to reduce the target on second child protection plans, where problems are becoming so complex and severe, but it's making no difference to neighbourhoods. Nothing's improving in neighbourhoods. So that's one of the things that we're exploring, and through coming together through these spaces where people are creating and beginning to see their own talent and worth, what we've seen is that people might stop doing some of the things that have been causing them difficulty, whether that has been about problematic substance use or tablets or harming themselves, and are saying, actually, we could create a peer support system here. We could actually, I'm very good at listening to people around here, and they listen to what I do and I support them. So we're beginning to see the possibility of the service, the community alternatives to services that we could create and resource in the neighbourhood. And so that's part of the plan, as well as the other thing that we're looking at is kind of becoming a community land trust and owning property, so that we can be ethical landlords, and instead of kind of Serco having the contracts for the people who are seeking asylum who are moved into the community and then just dumped. How do we offer that in a different way? So we're looking at all aspects of community life and thinking about, you know, what's the thing that with any cash that people have got left over, what's everybody spending that on? And we know it's food. So what could we create in this community that instead of that money going to X, Y, and Z outside, that could bring that cash back here and sustain jobs? So that's kind of the bigger vision. Is it possible? And we know it's possible because we see examples of it all over the globe. You know, when we're being mentored here by kind of a community that's much further down, has done some things differently, hasn't got the same passions or interests that we have here, but has followed this path since 2013 and 10 years in, owning lots of buildings, capping rents forever for people who are living in the accommodation that they've bought, and really creating vibrant, creative community places where people have a sense of belonging and connection to each other and the place that they're in.
And one of the things that me and Marcus have been, and others have been trying to do with this, no labels, is the education component, because, you know, like you're saying, is there's so many, it's going to take kind of a community in order to create the community, but yet there's so much, there's very lack of information and education about community building for most people because they're not asked to do those things. So that's one of the reasons why we thought about the newspaper, because the newspaper is a way, especially if it's print, that we're able to frame certain issues with themes like spaces, or maybe like you're mentioning about land, community land development, etc., in a way that people could also be content creators and then have to actually disseminate, because it's print, to their neighbors, the newspaper, and have then a discussion and education about the topics you're kind of talking about. Because what we've found is that the community building skills, especially on a grassroots level, is very underdeveloped, if no development at all. So if you ask somebody to go out and create an event with somebody else, there's no actual background for them to even do that. So that's why we thought about the newspaper idea. And obviously this is kind of 101 with community development, right? For union labor organizing, etc. But that's why we were thinking of the first newspaper would be about public spaces, which kind of ties in also to the community development that you're kind of talking about. Anyways, the land development, because those are community spaces as well. But have you found, I guess my last question, Marcus, and have you found that there's been a struggle, or at least a kind of like Hannah, what you're talking about with your husband, a kind of a lack of community education, especially for people? I guess that goes back to my last question, which was the clubs and association. Has there been a lack of knowledge about community organizing, and do you think you're going to run into that as you ask people to contribute more?
Oh, it's a massive problem, and it's the major part of the work. I think right from day one, like even at the beginning of the pandemic, people felt that they needed permission to be a neighbour, like that they should send that to a service, or people think the council are responsible for this. And it's a really delicate conversation to have, because community building can, people can think actually you're playing into the arms of the neoliberalist agenda, and you're actually advocating for public services to be completely cut by saying citizens could do some of this work. So it's such a delicate kind of tightrope to get people to like shift from thinking like saying, oh, why should I do that? Because we pay our tax for that, to say, actually, I can contribute to that. And well, what do I get from it is really great. And then, hang on a minute, could we run that better ourselves? And that's a process that people have to go through. And I think like that was part, our community magazine, AO, where I had twofold of a reason. One was about, we knew that there was a lot of people who don't go online, who didn't know what we've been doing for the last 2 years. So we wanted to communicate that. And two was beginning to kind of provide examples of things that people have done and possibilities. So we have like these quarterly meetings, which, dependent upon what's on offer, we either call cash and chips or pie and pounds or cake and cash, which are small sparks funding of up to £200 to £300 for streets or individuals or groups of people to come together with a good idea, and other people who are in that room, just in that room at that time, will vote on whether they get the money, and then they are accountable to those people in that room. So letting people know, actually, if you've got an idea that just needs a couple of £100 and you've got somebody, and that's how we've grown the bike stuff. You know, it's how we've grown people setting up little businesses that are doing the catering for our events and stuff. So I think it's about the whole infrastructure that helps people to step out of like the boxes we've been put in, you know, around being good customers and good consumers. And it's such a challenge, and that's why what we've created is a little organising circle in the community that has grown out of people who have come together in the way that we've been growing, rather than try and reform what's already there, because people are just always trying to push us into being. You wouldn't think that building community was such a radical act, would you? Right. But people are pushing the power and the states that impacts on us, trying to push us that way, push us down, and then people in the neighbourhood are like pushing back. So right. Yeah, it's a job.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. That's great. Yeah, it was really, Marcus.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Angela, for being here today. As we are Action Monday, I would like to ask, what is your call to action to our international audience? What's your invitation, like we discussed? Well, how can people take action?
You don't need permission. You just need to find other people who share a passion. And if you look at what you've got between you, you sure enough will soon find everything that you need to start really, really small and stay really, really small. And lots of little small things will make the big changes everywhere across the world.
Thank you, Angela. How about you, Hannah? What is your call to action to the world?
Oh my goodness. It's hard, and it's always hard to follow Angela because she's so wise. I think for me, kind of to pull on what Angela was saying before about whose job is it, do you know? And even just starting really small when you go to things. And I'm thinking about a playgroup I was at recently, and there was a lady behind the counter, and she was serving the teas and the coffees, and nothing was stopping people going around the counter and helping. And this lady, you could see her getting more and more worked up that everybody was asking things of her, and she was a mum just like me. And I think it's recognizing those moments when it's not about charity, it's about solidarity. Like I'm here, I'm capable of serving tea and coffee too, and that can be my contribution in this moment. Not to say I'm the helper and you're the helped, but actually right now we've all got something to give. So I guess my call to action is when are the moments when it's not someone else's job, it's yours.
Thank you so much, Hannah. Thank you, Angela. This was No Labels, No Walls Action Monday. And please subscribe and read more, www.nolabelsnowalls.net. Have a great day, great week, great year. We are all in this together. We are one. Thank you.